Good evening and welcome to Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. Tonight we focus on the 30 years of independence, especially celebrating this constitution that was enacted in 1995. 19 chapters really precede this constitution, 288 sections at that, but also this constitution comes after 3 failed attempts. This fourth one was meant to solve democracy, governance, but also look at all the post-independence problems, but all the problems that came after independence. We also look at 25,000 submissions that were made to be able to make a decision on how we go forward. A 21-man panel was put together, led by the Chief Justice, Benjamin Odoki, to be able to get submissions of all Ugandans across the country. It took 4 years. That led to the CA delegates there that came together and formed 5 select committees to be able to deliberate and get us a constitution that would move us forward. The biggest question is around the 12 contentious areas that came from land, how to be governed, either the movement system, and all these were issues that were lingering around there. Tonight, we focus on that constitution and discuss its preamble, but also the chapters within there. How far have we gone with living up to this constitution? Let me get to my panel that is with me in the studio this evening. On my immediate left, Dr. Sarah Birete, the Executive Director of Center for Constitutional Governance. She's with us this evening. Good evening, Doctor, and it's good to have you.
Thank you, Timothy. Good evening, fellow panelists and viewers out there. It's always good to be on.
Tomorrow is Independence, 63 years.
Yes, but today is the 30th birthday of the Constitution. For us, that's our bias as the Constitution watchdog.
Thank you very much. Making his maiden appearance here, Honorable Dan Wandera Ogalo, a senior citizen, a former CA delegate with us this evening. Good evening, sir, and it's good to have you.
Good evening.
You're well?
I'm well, I'm okay.
It's good to have you.
Thank you.
Next to him is Honorable Ibrahim Nganda Semuju, the Chief of Staff at the People's Front for Freedom, but also representing the people of Kira Municipality, both as the incumbent and the flag bearer for PFF in Kira Municipality. Good evening, sir, and it's good to have you.
Good evening to everybody watching and following UBC.
Also making his maiden appearance, Honorable Chidiowa Chiwanuka, the Attorney General of Uganda. Good evening, sir, and it's good to have you.
Good evening, Timothy. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming and gracing us, both of you, with Honorable Wandera. But before we go any further, before I give you any breaking of what should be here, let's cross over to Jethro, who's in Ntinda at the CCG offices, to give us a brief, and then we'll be back in the studio to have the deliberation and the debate that is.
Well, thank you, Timothy, and the viewers of UBC Behind the Headlines. Like you have stated out clearly, actually, I am coming to you live from Ntinda at the head offices of the Center for Constitutional Governance, that is CCG. I will be talking to 2 people. They will be giving us their view on what they do expect out of this show, because I do have actually very many people who are going to be following this show. They really want to understand a number of things after understanding that this is the 4th constitution we've been following since 1962. Of course, a number of constitutions have been put in place, this being the 4th one from 1995 up to present. A number of amendments have been done, but how best can Ugandans can actually appreciate what has been done so far? Not forgetting the 1789, that is the American Constitution. Should we say this is the oldest constitution in place? We shall be finding out that. But also, we do have the Russian Constitution. I have been doing research. This has been in place since 1993. So Uganda comes in there at 1995. But Timothy, allow me talk to one of my people that I do have here. They do tell us what do they expect as Ugandans. 1995 Constitution, a number of amendments have been done. What do they expect? Are they happy with what we have so far? I do have Yvonne Mpambara. She is a politician, but she is also a lawyer. Let her give us what she thinks for today's program. Thank you so much. What do you expect as a Ugandan? 1995 Constitution, we are following this as Ugandans. Are you happy with what we have so far? I will hold the mic.
Oh, no problem. My name is Yvonne. Thank you for introducing me. We've marked 30 years of the Constitution, and I was born just 2 years before the Constitution actually was was passed. And we feel that there have been so many areas or gaps where it has fallen short, mostly because we feel there haven't been respectable leaders in place to be able to fully push for the Constitution to pass or to work as a living document for Ugandans to believe in. When we question where power belongs, especially power that has been given to Ugandans by the Constitution, what do we answer at the end of the day? 30 years later, where does power belong? When the Constitution gave Ugandans the power in Uganda, do we see it now? Can you ask a Ugandan on the street that where does power reside? And they will tell you, power in Uganda resides with the Ugandan people, or they will tell you it resides with the government, it resides with the president and the gun. Secondly, there are certain parts of the Constitution that we feel are utopian. They seem like we just pulled different bits of articles from the colonial masters without necessarily a plan for implementation. When you talk about separation of powers, is that something that we are actually able to do? Can a judge wake up one day and say, Museveni has betrayed the rule of law and I can impeach him and remove him? Is that actual power that Ugandans have? Is that actual independence, that the separation of powers has been put into the hands of these different arms of governance? Or we just have a document, unrealistic, that is doing work that is not supposed to, that is not actually doing?
All right, thank you so much, Yvonne. Timothy, before I get back to the studio, I also do have Marion Chirabo. She is also a politician. She will be giving us her view. Chirabo, I do understand that the Constitution actually clearly stipulates that it protects the national goals, but also the fundamental rights. Has this been achieved 30 years down the road? I'll hold the mic for you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Marion Chirabo, and I'm also an LC5 woman aspirant for Makerere University on the NUP ticket. And no, the longer that we have taken under this Constitution, the more that we start to see the erosion of especially the Bill of Rights under the Constitution. And I think for me, it comes from a point of this document that we call the Constitution is really something that in my thinking and in my assessment, it is not something that we came to as a consensus, because at the time of its making, we were just from a war. We were all, at least for the people who were alive at that time, because for me, when 1995 happened, I was not yet born, that these people were victims of war. There were military men in charge. So what say did they actually have? It seems to me to be an elitist consensus that was come together by a group of people who were the ruling class at that time. And they said, well, they borrowed some bits and pieces from colonial masters here and there, and imposed it to people who did not even understand the basics of this paper. So how do you defend something that you do not also understand? How do you defend something that is in a foreign language? How do you defend something whose aspects or whose basic structure you have no idea about? So even when we're talking about the protection of the human rights, if you're going to someone in a rural place, your average market woman, can they explain to you what these human rights are, the significance of what they are, and why they should be protected? And that is the difference between when you talk about the American Constitution, that these ideals that were put onto this paper were ideals that people understood and fought for. That when we talk about the freedom from slavery, that there was a civil war that was fought, that people came together to fight for, to make sure that that right is there in their constitution. So I think that is what is lacking, and that is why we're seeing the erosion of human rights over the years. Well,
thank you so much. Tim, as I get back to you in the studios, of course, with your panelists, you will understand that Ugandans actually have very many questions lingering within their minds. What is there to celebrate? What have we achieved so far? 30 years down the road, of course, not forgetting that tomorrow we are celebrating our 63rd independence. Over to you, Tim, at the political house.
Thank you very much, Jethro. And thank you for the feedback that has come through. Let me read the preamble of this Constitution, really, that caught us before we listen to Chief Justice Benjamin Odoki. A solemn, this was the preamble of the Constitution that said it was a solemn declaration made by the people of Uganda, acknowledging their history of political and constitutional instability and the struggles against tyranny, oppression, and exploitation. It expresses the commitment to build a unified, peaceful, equitable future by a durable constitution based on principles of democracy, social justice, and progress. So, let's listen to the person that had led the 21-man team that really put this together, especially the submissions that came to you from Ugandans, and then we'll be back to debate the Constitution here in the studio.
So, for me, I don't form personal opinions on issues of national importance. The people of Uganda should pronounce themselves. Now, if you ask me, what did you do? What I did, you can read in the Constitution and in my books. You want to see my views. So if you ask me, and secondly, you must know that, as I told you, the Constitution is not cast in stone. The people themselves are the ones to change it in the manner which is provided in the Constitution. It's not for me to tell you, there's some of the Constitution, some of the changes I've seen, maybe could have been done just by law. A constitution should not be touched unless it is absolutely necessary. But there are certain provisions which, if you make, they could conflict with the constitution. That's the problem. And we have been blamed that the constitution is too detailed. Had it been just like American constitution, which is a federal constitution, because each state has its own constitution, it would have been others could have been dealing with other things. And so the constitution is still young. I think it's growing. We're still learning to see what can work for Uganda and what cannot work for it. In the Constitution, we are not quite sure of what will work for Uganda. That's why you can see that even in a political system, we put there two systems. But we don't know whether movement system will work better, multi-party will work better, but now it's for people of Uganda to judge. I think you are seeing now the momentum. So whatever changes you have made is for people of Uganda to be able to pass judgment, not for the former Chief Justice or the former Chairman of the Constitutional Commission. You can change the whole Constitution. I don't mind, but the people themselves must change it, not me. Yes, it's not a personal document. If Parliament wants to change the whole Constitution and write another one, I have no problem. They will have a challenge which I had, sleepless nights. How do you write a preamble to the Constitution? How? Anyway, I'll write a preamble to the Constitution. How do you start? Anyway, the point I'm trying to say is that whatever changes are done must be necessary.
So that's the Chief Justice, former Chief Justice Benjamin Odoki, telling us about the formation and enactment of this constitution. He says Ugandans need to pronounce themselves, and also continues to say if Parliament wants to take it, let it take it on. You can follow us on our space on X. Get there, drop your comment, let us know what you think. We're live on YouTube. Get there and drop your comment. The number for text or WhatsApp, 0709 60 25 92 for text and WhatsApp. Let's get into this conversation. It's befitting that I start with Honorable Wandera to be able to have this conversation, especially since you were part of the delegates that put this together. When you look at how this constitution was enacted, when you reflect on it, do we have continuity? Have we departed from it? And how different is it from the one of 1962, 1966, and 1967?
I think that the 1995 Constitution differs greatly from the earlier constitutions of 62, 66, and 67, in that the 1995 Constitution gets its legitimacy from the people. It was the people who directly elected representatives by adult suffrage to go and take their views and debate them and make the Constitution. The 1961-62 constitutions that are a result of Lancaster. 66 is called a pigeonhole constitution. Nobody had any input in it. 67 Constitution was nearly adopted by Parliament. So the big difference really is the 1995 Constitution is a result of the consensus of the people. And the collection of views took quite a long time. So that, I think, is quite a difference. Now, in terms of provisions, yes, true, like it was said, there are some things which you will find in any constitution, like a Bill of Rights. That one you will find in 67, you will find in, you cannot really change much about that. But on the question of governance, as you have seen Chief Justice say, former Chief Justice say, there was an attempt for us to redefine critical areas such as system of government, form of government, and limiting powers of the executive. So there are quite big differences in terms of form of government, system of government, and even the electoral process.
Honorable, you had two young people that were speaking there. Where have we lost the translation? Because 30 years later, the Constitution seems to be going in one direction. The young people, who are the biggest population in this country, seem to have misconceptions or perceptions that are different from what is in the Constitution, or what their expectations are.
Maybe I would venture to say that part of the problem is awareness of the Constitution. The younger people may not really be very aware of the Constitution. But under, I think it is Article 4, either 3 or 4, where the state was required to translate the Constitution in the languages of Uganda and disseminate it widely to the people. There, the younger people would become aware if you translated it and widely circulated it. The same article also speaks of teaching the Constitution in all educational institutions. That will mean even from primary up to university. It will be part of the curriculum. That has not been done. So I think that awareness, our failure to make this available to the younger people, for them to understand it, to teach it to them, may be the reason why there is this not understanding what all this is about. If we had done that, I'm sure that we would be debating at the same level.
Thank you very much. Let me come to Honorable Samuju. Honorable Samuju,
Yeah.
how valid and effective is this Constitution 30 years later?
Is it still there?
The validity and the effectiveness of the Constitution.
I was in Mbale 2017 with the colleagues challenging the removal of age limit. One of the arguments by our lawyers, I think the Lord Mayor, was that the foundation, you started with the preamble, the foundation, so the key pillars in the Constitution had been removed, because this Constitution was made mainly to deal with issues of transferring power from one person to another. The term limit was removed, the age limit was removed. That's why now you have a life presidency. And I think the argument of Lupaga and other lawyers, the Honorable Dan Ogaro was representing Law Society in that case, was that the moment you removed the term limit, and what remained was the age limit, this is no longer the 1995 Constitution, one that was meant to deal with the history of no president handing over power to another, history of all presidents being removed through violent means, So one of the things this constitution was supposed to deal with was to ensure we don't repeat that history. What we have today, you may not have the power to remove, but maybe for the first time you'll have one military man handing over transfer to his son, like it happened in Togo under Yadema. So yeah, the basic principles in the constitution, the pillars were removed. So this is not even an NRM, but a M7 constitution now. All these NRM people are just serving. So the 1995 constitution, there was an attempt to restore the term limit, but because of the way it was done, courts, I mean, both the Constitutional Court was unable to keep it, and subsequently the Supreme Court. So, so really the 1995 Constitution made to address our problems. It's not, I mean, I don't see, even the ritual that remains is not followed. I don't think we are governed by the Constitution anymore. And I don't even think that the President thinks this country is governed by the Constitution. This country is governed by President Museveni and his family. It is no longer, I mean, that you have a Constitution to speak about, that you have a contract. So and I pity people who work for government that they're interpreting, because there is no interpretation that you offer. All that has gone. Now we are in a full military dictatorship. They will invade the court, they will arrest people, even Parliament itself. I was a victim when they were during the consideration of the term limit. We were removed in Parliament violently by the special forces, detained at various police stations. So we are under military dictatorship. The Constitution maybe is for purposes of public relations, that you can keep referring to it. We have a Constitution in Uganda. Yes, it exists. The physical Constitution exists, but we are no longer governed under or by the Constitution. We are governed by the military. If they say we'll beat you, they will beat you. If they want to invade the court, they will invade. And they have invaded the courts on several occasions, even telling judges that what works here are people who went to the war to fight and remove a government, so don't disturb them. So really the 1995 Constitution, maybe what is there to celebrate is the history, that it is now 30 years since it was promulgated. But there is nothing to celebrate about this Constitution.
Honorable Semuju, you seem to create a whole debacle of hopelessness, especially looking at 2017, the removal, but we also have the 2005 getting to multi-partyism. And also Honorable Dan Wandera is here. They fought against having the movement system nationalized. Isn't that a benefit from the Constitution that we would celebrate as a country?
The party is functioning. I was in Chankwanza as a journalist, and President Museveni made it very clear. He said we should allow parties to operate, and he gave 3 reasons. He says, first, these multi-parties, they go outside the country and speak bad about us. He said, point number 2, we have children who never experienced, in fact he used the word, he says they have a MP of democracy. They are disturbing us that parties should return. But he also had people he had wanted to remove from the ruling, the NRM. So he said, and that's why his slogan during the referendum was to the Jeko. So the parties in theory also return. But these parties are not operating like political parties, free to assemble, free to associate. I don't know how many times we've been invaded at our headquarters, taken over by the military. almost all the parties. Look at what is happening, I mean, at national unity platform, whether in the campaigns, whether it's in a normal day-to-day running of parties. So yes, parties were restored. In theory, we exist, but in practice, I think the restrictions have remained. I was covering the committee on legal, either chaired by Honorable Ben Wacha and deputized by Honorable Galo, or vice versa.
Vice versa.
The first Political Parties and Organizations Act, the bill that was brought in Parliament, the President wanted political parties' activities limited at their headquarters. He put it in the law. The MPs attempted to change a bit. He refused to assent to the bill. It was brought back. And that's the frame under which the President said now parties can operate. He wants them to operate, so you can have a headquarter, you can sit there. When it comes to opening branches, even offices, you're going to meet police, you're going to meet the military. So yes, parties are there. I belong to PFF, in which I am serving as a chief of staff. But PFF cannot be allowed to go and open branches, functional, meet people, recruit, address rallies. So we are where we are, I mean, where we were before even the parties returned. So in theory, the parties are there, but the limitations have remained. And that's what the President wanted, and that's what he announced in Chankwan's, that we can allow these parties because we will go to beg for money from donors, then they will disturb us. But now we'll and they kept demanding that, why don't you restore pluralism in Uganda? He said, now we have restored. But Uganda, really, we can pretend about it, but we are under military dictatorship.
Okay. Let me bring in the AG. Honorable Chiwonka, 30 years later, you as the principal legal advisor both to government but also one of the custodians of this constitution, is this constitution still relevant and is it fit for purpose when you look in hindsight, posterity?
Yes, thank you very much, Timothy. First of all, of course, it is still relevant and it is functional. You know, of course, unlike Honorable Semujo, who will start everything and start everything with President Museveni, I think we lose focus on the issues. This constitution is about the principles of sovereignty of the people, accountability, governance, and of course the bills of right and etc. But this constitution is not a static. It's not a static item. When Honorable Semju talks about the history of Uganda, he seems that to believe that the history of Uganda is only the history of Uganda as at 1995, because we've had 30 years, and even those 30 years are history. So when you talk about a constitution, you're talking about dealing with the history of the country. So the people who made the 1995 constitution had the history of Uganda before 1995. So they made the constitution with that history in mind. Of course, they did not have the benefit of foresight, or not foresight, of seeing the future. They had the benefit of foresight when they said, look, if this history changes, if the circumstances change, then they put provisions for us to keep dealing with the aspirations of the people as they exist at any given time. So if you ever think about a constitution, you should not think about it as a static item. It is supposed to be dynamic. It is supposed to address the issues that are being addressed at that time. In fact, it's no wonder when you talk about the young people saying, what is this all about? Because the question may be that we should be asking ourselves, is the constitution addressing the aspirations now of those people? Because the aspirations of the people that were there in 1995 is what informed the constitution that we are dealing with. So the constant changes and the issues that go on with the constitution are now dealing with the emerging issues. So history is not static. So when we talk about age limit, term limit, all these things that have been changing over time, we vulgarize the constitution because we seem to talk about only 2 provisions in this constitution. This constitution has been amended probably like 12 times over the years. But when we talk about this thing, you'll find people just talking about age limit, term limit, age limit, term limit. But I don't think anyone has ever discussed what the changes that, like you said, on multi-party. We haven't discussed the changes in the local government management. We haven't discussed the changes that we... So there's so many things that change over time. The question we should be asking ourselves, what is it that we need to do to make the Constitution even more relevant to us at this time? So the Constitution is definitely relevant because, look, we are here. You're calling me Attorney General. You're calling me Attorney General by virtue of the Constitution. Honorable Semujju is Member of Parliament by virtue of the Constitution. So how does he get into the Parliament? Through the election by the people. So all these things that have been changing, that have been happening, are supposed to be dynamically addressing the challenges that exist at the time. If we sit down and say we should go back to the 1995 Constitution, the question is, whose history are we dealing with? So do we discount the 30 years that we have existed? And what are the challenges that we have been dealing with in the 30 years? Don't we need to address them? So there are many things that we need to look at when you're discussing a constitution. For example, we look at one of the burning issues that we have to deal with here today is, say, the question of land. We have had a history about land. Is the Constitution addressing that issue? How is it addressing it? What do we need to do to be able to address the issues of land? Now, the problem that we had of land in 1995 was dealing with a population of, I think, 13 million at the time, 15 million. The land in Uganda has not increased by a square kilometer. It has remained static since 1995. The population has increased to 45 million people. How do we deal with that situation? I think that is what we as leaders need to be looking at and finding out what is it that we are dealing with. So this issue, and I'm happy that Honorable Semujju raises it, because the court addressed it and said, no, no, no. And I think even Honorable Justice Odoke Emeritus just now just said you can change all of it. If the people of Uganda want to change all of it today, they can change it. The question is, what are you addressing? Is that what the people want at the time?
And that's exactly the question I want to put to you, because you say demanding issues. But also when I look at the preamble, it is specific on political, constitutional, and instability of our history. What are these emerging issues you are talking about? Yeah,
because now the instability we had before the 33 years before the Constitution is not the instability we are having now. You understand? So the issue we are dealing with now is different. So if his concern is how do we change power, we are saying, but the Constitution is telling you how to change it. Has it failed? It hasn't failed. So you're saying, if the people of Uganda still want President Museveni to be in office, we should not allow it because some few people don't want it to be. Now, the problem here is you are saying that they remove these for him, but the people who remove them are representatives of the people. So Article 1 of the Constitution is talking about the sovereignty of the people. How do you exercise the sovereignty of the people? Now, if the sovereignty of the people is exercised by them electing people who come to Parliament and do that which they have been elected to do, we can't turn around and say it's not, but alternatively we could change and say that the Constitution, we go to the people and say the Constitution of Uganda should remain static, it should never change for the next 50 years. So that's the balance. So that's the balance we need to find. What has worked? What has not worked? What can we do better? But to say that there is no Constitution or that the Constitution is there on paper while we are all operating under the same Constitution, we are operating in Parliament every day, and every day we are quoting provision this of the Constitution, provision that of the Constitution. So we cannot cherry pick. We can say, okay, we don't think that works. We take it back to the people, because that is the fundamental here. So when we say the basic tenets of the Constitution, the basic tenet of this Constitution is sovereignty of the people. That's the basic tenet. What the people want to do with their country is what the people should do. And I think, for me, that's what I think. So we really do have a Constitution, and because this Constitution is written by a man, and man is not going to play God on earth, yeah, there will be mistakes that will be made, but the Constitution itself has mechanisms of correcting those nuances.
And I'll come back to some of the things you've mentioned there, especially when we come to the part of governance. Dr. Sarah, AG mentioned something interesting, especially Article 1 that talks about the sovereignty of the people. Are the people of this country sovereign? And where are the people in this constitution? Because when I look at what Honorable Semuji was talking about, removal of the age limit in 2017, 80% of the people said not to it, but the members that represent them went ahead and did the inverse.
I think the Constitution as a document or a framework, which is known as a grand norm, was good, save for the few provisions on limiting political freedoms. But generally, and like the documentary we watched before, I think the men and women of Uganda who took time to participate in the constitutional making process did a good job, commendable. I think the question we should interrogate as citizens is, where did we go wrong? Because we have the legal framework, yes. We can't say that we don't have the Constitution, but the Constitution is not self-executing. So what happened after promulgation? We are running the theme on guardians of the Constitution, and we hope to take some lessons from South Africa, given the journey they've walked. Some of the instances similar, some different. How best should we have guarded the Constitution? When you go to Article 3, yes, Article 1 is sovereignty of the people. Article 2, related. But when you go to Article 3, it says the people must protect the Constitution and refuse any persons or authority from abrogating the Constitution. When you go to other frameworks of the Constitution, you will find the institutions of governance, like the Human Rights Commission, the Legal Reform Commission, you have the Electoral Commission, the IG, Inspector of Government. These are the accountability institutions that were put to work as supportive checks and balances to the three arms of government. The first collapse of the Constitution, in my view, happens at the institution of Parliament. In terms of substance, and with all due respect, I know they are good MPs. It's not that everybody really lacks. So I have to put that disclaimer that when we are talking about the institution of Parliament, it's not that everybody is wanting, no. So the institution of Parliament had a lot of responsibility deriving from Article 79 on protection of the Constitution, making laws for the order, development, and good governance of the country, among others. Some laws have been found wanting by courts of law, especially political laws. And I think it's deliberate, in my view as an activist. Some of the sections that have been found to be unconstitutional by our constitutional court are enacted deliberately. It's not that it's out of ignorance. For example, the Public Order Management Act, Section 8, you have a section outlawed in the Mwanga Chivumbi case versus Attorney General. You bring it back in a new law, yet the Constitution is clear under Article 92 that you cannot legislate to defeat the purpose of a court decision or any part of the judgment. And people are told, look, this is retrospective, legislation. But deliberately, because the framers of that provision know this is a political law, we shall make it implement it. By the time the courts get about outlawing it, we'll have achieved our political aims. That's how the Constitution is manipulated in bits and bits. Why would you bring a law that is deliberately unconstitutional? Yet these are very intelligent people, super intelligent. So those are some of the things that have weakened constitutionalism in this country. When you look at the functioning of Parliament, the checks and balances that they are supposed to do, I like comparing the quality of the Constituent Assembly that people have watched out there with the current quality today. 30 years down the road, we are supposed to be better in terms of human development. So why is it that the quality is worse and disappointing? What has gone wrong? And I'm sure people have watched. If you look at the debate in the Constituent Assembly, if we brought to the Constituent Assembly men and women today and pressed them back to Parliament, this country would skyrocket. The first world nation, I have no doubt. I remember the words of Honorable Apakabro, the late, when he was in Kenya sharing about the experience of the 1995 constitution making process. He stated that unless Ugandans disrupt themselves, but with this constitution, Uganda should be a first world nation after 20 years. We are now celebrating or commemorating 30 years. Are we a first world nation? So how come that the vision and hopes of the likes of the late Wapakabro can't be realized? How can we as a people, our illiteracy rates have gone, we are almost at 80%, very educated, very many people, we are healthy, living longer. Why is it that we have a lower and a more degenerating quality of leadership as compared to where we were 30 years? How can we develop in reverse in terms of leadership? What is it? What is the problem? Why is it that we have a quality of members of Parliament that have no capacity to protect the Constitution? And yet their key function is protecting the Constitution. But do they have the capacity? How many MPs can you ask to cite 5 articles of the Constitution or even know where to find them? Because the best person, it's not cramming the law. At least, do they know where to find it? How many? I don't think they go beyond 50. So why is it that we produce this quality of leadership? The third missing gap is the people. Article 4 of the Constitution provided that the Constitution be translated and taught to citizens in their local languages. I know that there was a first translation of the Constitution. I've landed on a copy in Ateso. I haven't got to the Runyankore version, which is my language. Few copies were made. Translations in 8 key languages were made. But has anybody of us ever seen the distribution of these copies to our communities? Has there been any effort 30 years down the road to sensitize the people? How can the people, whose duty is to protect the Constitution, protect what they don't know? That's impossible. So that's the third missing link on why the Constitution has not served its purpose. So when you go to the journey we've walked, of course there are few achievements. You have a framework. I think the Constitution works only where the powers deem it to work. Let's look at the simple aspects of fundamental rights and freedoms. Article 23. When you go to arrest a person, introduce yourself, inform the person of the crime they are suspected of committing, tell their next of kin where they are going to be detained, allow access of family, doctors, lawyers, produce them in court within 48 hours. It's the most abused provision in this country, to the extent that We have abductions, we have enforced disappearances, we have people we cannot account for, and we detain people beyond the mandatory hours, mandatory days. You have the case of Besigye abducted from Kenya. 30 years down the road, you abduct your senior leaders across border. Besigye left Uganda a few hours, because he didn't spend even in Nairobi 2 hours. He was in his home. Everybody knows where he stays. He reaches Kenya. He's abducted, goes missing, incommunicado for 2 days. Then news start coming from Kenya. Why is it that we cannot respect simple basics of the Constitution? When you go to the question, and it's good we have the principal legal advice of government, there is a case, there is a troubling case in the IG's office and corruption court and regarding a register of land titles. Interdicted by the IG, he takes plea in a criminal case. The standing orders are very clear, public service standing orders. Once you're charged in court, you are automatically interdicted until your court is done with your case. A directive comes from the president. Why did you remove a register of titles? Reinstate. Then you have a permanent secretary reinstating a register of titles. Who has taken a stand in a criminal case in anti-corruption court, interdicted by IG? He's now in office. So are we implementing the Constitution and the laws of Uganda? We are not.
Honorable Wandera, when you hear, especially having been part of the Constitution, the formation of this Constitution, but also hearing the young people that spoke to us, in bliss of what is happening with this Constitution, if you went back in hindsight with what you know now, what would you do different?
You see, the question of the Constitution, you can't be just theoretical about it. Even if I went back to the Constituent Assembly and passed different provisions, assume I did so. Assume I said we made a mistake here, we should have done it this way. The paramount question which will remain will be, will those who come to implement the Constitution implement it in the way those who made the Constitution envisaged that it will be implemented? Yes, you can have the Constitution, and we do have a Constitution. But without constitutionalism, even if I went back and did the matters differently, if there is no culture of constitutionalism, of the people who implement the Constitution sticking to the spirit and letter of the Constitution, it will still not serve any purpose, even if what you change. If you look at implementation, and I'm glad the doctor raised this issue of the people defending the Constitution. And I wanted to add to that, to show why even doing it differently may not be the answer. If you look at the schedule in the Constitution, it provides for oath, which different people must swear before they assume office. This is the president, the vice president, the speaker, cabinet ministers, deputy speaker, members of parliament. That is essentially the two arms of government, the executive and the legislature. So what do they swear to do before they sit in the office? The wording is provided in the Constitution. And it says, I will protect, uphold, preserve, defend the Constitution. These are two arms of government. The holders are saying they are going to protect, they are going to defend, they are going to uphold the Constitution. We all know that the courts, the judiciary, are the custodians of the Constitution. So at the end of the day, you are having all the three arms of government given the duty to make the Constitution work. Because you asked earlier on in the paper, what are the strengths of this Constitution? The strengths come from the people. The Constitution is as good as the people who are implementing it. So if the president, vice president, members of parliament, speaker, the judiciary, if they do what the Constitution says they should do, protect, support, uphold, it would mean one thing, that we will not be having the controversies which the doctor is talking about, which Uganda is talking about. They will not all be there, because all these officers would be protecting and upholding the Constitution. The doctor here is talking about abductions, disappearances, and the Bill of Rights prohibits all that.
Why isn't it working?
It is, in my view,
because you mentioned it clearly and said the president, the vice president, all these, in their pronouncement, they are speaking about defending the Constitution. Every 5 years, Ugandans go to the ballot. But it almost seems like Ugandans are powerless, that the document that's supposed to empower them does not empower them. Where are we failing?
I think part of the problem would be weaknesses in character, human weaknesses, and so on. Because if we came here and we said, Timothy, your work is to have us have contributions about this debate. And you sit there and we sit here, but instead of moderating us, you open a bottle of beer and start drinking it. It would be a weakness on your part. You know what you are supposed to do, but you choose not to do it. So to answer your question, I think that there is also non-committal to the spirit of the Constitution. And here the Attorney General raised a point about changing the Constitution in answer to Semuju, about changing the Constitution, like removing the term limit. It is true, the Constitution provides for how it can be changed, and that is normal. But also we cannot lose the sight of Semuju's point about the history. Because when you are going to change and remove these either term or age limits, yes, Parliament can do so, but you must question yourself, are you doing it for the people of Uganda, or are you doing it for an individual? If you amend the Constitution for an individual, that is already a problem. Because an amendment should be able to answer something for all of us. But now, the two-term limit which Semuju is insisting on is the history. I served in a committee too which dealt with the chapters on executive, legislature, and the judiciary. And the two-term limit was a result of our history that we had never had a peaceful transfer of power. Now, we passed it in 1995. Before the end of 2005, before even the 10 years which a president is supposed to serve, we are already changing it. So, yes, you can amend, the law allows it, but what are the reasons behind? That's what will determine whether it is whether you are respecting the spirit of the Constitution or not.
You spoke about the culture. The document is available of the Constitution, and you spoke about constitutionalism. Where did we lose it, especially in achieving that culture of constitutionalism? But also I would like to add something that you have said about the 5 years. Professor Oluka said 10 years are sufficient. After 10 years, it begins to become diminishing returns. 15 years, the leader becomes a liability to the country. What do you make of this assertion?
At the time, we debated it in committee too. Really what informed us was the history. And I'll come to Professor Oloka's assessment. The history that since independence, we have always changed our leaders through violence. Now, whenever you do so, people die. Properties are destroyed. You take people back. People start afresh. There is a lot of suffering. So the two-term limit was supposed to be something which would help us out of that problem. I think to answer your question, where did we lose it? Personally, I believe that if we had stuck to the two-term limit, 2006, President Museveni would have handed over to the BCJ generation. 2016, the BCJ generation would have handed over to the Mao generation. The Mao generation would now be preparing to hand over to the Kiwanuka Kiriowa generation.
The Mao generation.
No, you are not.
So that would allow growth of constitutionalism and growth and bring new ideas into the political arena.
Thank you. Let me come to Honorable Samuju. Honorable Samuju, you were very vehement when you spoke about the military, and especially their representation. Listening posts, those are some of the things they said, that after 10 years, after getting stability, they'll be able to transition them. In Tanzania, we saw it happen. Where do we find the balance between civilian rule and the military rule? Because these continue to represent the military there, regardless of the other security agencies.
I think in the CA, that's where you had, I think, Kano SJ and now General Tinyefuza and I think Serwanga Rwanga, when they are debating the issue of multi-party. The president never wanted military people to be engaged in the debate. He actually wrote, I still have that document, because in CA you had an opposition caucus, but you also had a movement caucus, and I guess the Honorable Wandere Ogaro was part of the movement caucus.
Correct.
So the president wrote, and he said when we, for example, go for multi-party democracy, you can't have the army in parliament, because the army, that parliament will be a partisan parliament. I still have that document. The same president insisted that the army should continue being in parliament, and they are still there. He had said because of the contribution made by, at that time controversial, by Tinyefuza and BCJ, that after all your duty is to watch and observe. That's when the word listening post came into being, that the military people are supposed to be listening post. during the removal of term limit, Colonel Fred Bogere chose to abstain. He didn't vote for removal. And Mr. Museveni summoned him in Mbale, where he had camped. I think he went with Aronda. Said, you Ogere, they have told him you have become a very big politician in Kampala. You are the one. Said, why didn't you vote for with your colleagues? He said, but we never took a decision as an army. So, and I took your guidance that when you go there, you become listening post. And Ogere was on Katebe until when he retired. So the military is still there. We are only a bit lucky that those 10 seats.
Which side do they sit?
I think Kadaga, when we were arguing, the Honorable Kadaga said they can choose where they want to sit. So they somehow sit in the middle, but they vote with NRM. They are like any other NRM MP. So Kanobogere does not vote and is reprimanded. So the rest of the military people who are there are supposed, they are in parliament to boost the NRM numbers. Even the way they are selected, because the Army Council is the one that elects military, but in the past, I think now they are directed, but they have to be chieftains. CMY, personnel, they would be the ones to generate a list of candidates. So you don't volunteer, so you don't ask to be a candidate. So they write a list, take it to Mr. Museveni, Commander-in-Chief. He removes some, he says this one remove. Then he brings the list before the Army Council. He says this one is historical, this one is this. So by the time he ends his speech, he has already selected the 7. So they vote for only 3. The 7 are directly elected by Museveni. This one is just a ceremony. And even to remove them. So the military is still there. I remember when J.J. Odongo was appointed Minister of State for Environment, Parliament said a serving military officer cannot be appointed a minister, because this is a partisan role. And J.J. Odongo did not assume that office until he resigned. Later on, Mr. Museveni appointed Aronda. The Parliament said, but he also supposed to resign like a J.J. He said, no, he will not resign. From now onwards, military people are serving as ministers. They don't have to resign, from Katumba Wamala to Aronda to everybody else. That's why I said when you asked me at the beginning of this debate, and you wanted me to talk about the 1995 Constitution and ask, is it still there? Maybe in a name. The other day, MPs summoned the CDF, who also happens to be Museveni's son. Says those crowns, how can you summon me? Maybe you will come crawling, I will even come and arrest you. And the speaker was very quick to say, why were you summoning him? This is an office, can't the deputy come? But we have had CDFs, Katumba Wamala, Aronda, and everybody appearing for accountability before Parliament. When he was speaking, celebrating the 30 years, he said accountability. Who accounts to who? If you have a CDF whose budget and salary is determined by Parliament, but he says you MPs, I can come and arrest you, he even had a demonstration. Today, you have a CDF who runs a political party. When Lieutenant General now, Henry Tumukunde, went on CBS and Radio 1, and he said, please don't remove the term limit. For 4 years, he was under house arrest at the officers' mess in Kololo, spreading harmful propaganda. He spoke, he says, no removal of term limits. Now you have a CDF who says, we are going into these elections. You will see us Bahima. And he tweets. And we are seeing them. The other day I saw Bobo Wine. He spent the biggest part of the day pushing vehicles because they can't allow him to drive on the main road. So really the Constitution was overthrown. A few provisions that have remained for purposes of facilitating the military dictatorship and family. If they want to arrest you, they will now read for you a particular provision that serves them, but the rest are not there. We can pretend about it. We are under full-blown military dictatorship. That's why I sympathize with the professionals who are advising government. I don't think Chiwanukachiyo, you are the one who advised government to invade the parliament and beat everybody. But we are beaten. You see, the speaker read a list of MPs.
I'm not a very big fan of indiscipline.
The speaker read a list of MPs she suspended. She says, you were in this, I have suspended you. I was never read, but I was the first to be removed and beaten. I nearly died. Even when they took me to Nagarama, the first thing they did was taking me to St. Agnes. There is a clinic there. Those fellows, SFC had nearly killed me. We recently we were considering the amendment to the Coffee Act. And again, SFC came. You journalists were arrested, detained in the conference hall of Parliament. They switched off lights, started picking SFC again. So if that is not a military dictatorship, what is it? In fact, we shouldn't be celebrating 30 years of the Constitution. We should be discussing 40 years of military dictatorship.
Let me come back
because this Constitution that may be in a classroom, this should be a classroom debate. The debate of Uganda should be 40 years of military rule, where if you don't have a gun, and now it's no longer even military, but family. Because even military people are also under pressure. I saw, and I keep teasing Erweru. Erweru was a deputy CDF. But Moses Kainerugaba said, you buffoon, this year I will deal with you. He said, my priorities for this year to deal with this buffoon. And the buffoon has since then been chased from the military. So even to stay in the military itself now, you can only stay either if the son or the father wants to stay. Even the military is under pressure. So it is no longer even a military. It is a family military dictatorship. That's what we should be discussing. But to bring here Chiwanukachiyo as if he's giving a lecture to law students is just pretense. The Constitution is no longer there. Finished 100%.
Let me come to the AG.
This one, who was a chairman for organizing parties of a military serving officer, blocking roads. He now has a political party. Recently, I saw them. He was in Kalangala. The principal legal advisor of government was in Kalangala with members of PLOU. And he legal military outfit turned the political party with a legal principal advisor. He was the one organizing parties for this illegal group. Yeah, we have abused this country to the maximum.
Honorable Semuju, every time I listen to you, you are the epitome of infatuation. You know, you are either a grave admirer of President Museveni and his family, or you are simply besotted, for lack of a better word, because you are really absolutely infatuated. I think when you go to sleep, the only thing you think about is the President Museveni, the family, the wife.
I actually,
but the point you're making,
I am bothered by family rule.
The point you make,
which you are serving.
The point you fail to make, the point you fail to make, or to in this whole run around of yours, is the problem has nothing to do with the Constitution.
The problem, I didn't even wait for you to say now it is your turn.
No, you told me.
Honorable, the Honorable AG.
You didn't wait.
Because you are really interested, because you are this infatuation is something, you know, it is bordering on
What is the difference between you? For you, they have turned, instead of being a principal legal advisor, you are chairman of their parties.
Yes,
that's the big job.
Where's the problem?
You should be advising a serving military officer not to have a political party.
No, but he doesn't have a political party that I know of, because I believe that Honorable Samuel Uganda, having been in Parliament for so long, would have actually at least learned how a political party is set up. So at least I would have thought that you would figure that out. But that notwithstanding.
Honorable Chiochonka, the question of governance was one of the things that was in our preamble, especially in the instability and the politics. He addresses the military. Do we still need the military in parliament? Because one of the things that I remember, especially when Honorable Wandera was there, is that there was an agreement that after 10 years they would leave if the stability is there. Are we still in instability that we still need the army in parliament per the constitution?
But that agreement is not in the constitution. So if there was an agreement, are you saying there are some things we agreed on which we did not put in the constitution?
So did the Tanzanians. It wasn't in the constitution.
Yeah, but that is why they put the provision on amendment. So when you determine that you no longer need it, that's how you do it. But you can't tell me that we had an agreement, because first of all, I wasn't there. So what we get is what we read and what we see as the agreement. So what is in the agreement is in the four corners of that constitution. So don't tell me about agreements that were made on the side which were not put in the constitution, because my job is not to advise on how the law should be, but how it is.
Okay. You see, the constitution, now like talking about the constitution, says the military must be subordinate to civilian role. So did you advise Mohoz to come and appear before the civilian? Did you? When he said, I will come and arrest you clowns.
No, well, I don't know whether he called you clowns, but if he did, I do not know what empirical data he used to arrive at that conclusion. Maybe my research may come to a different conclusion. But our fellow panelists here has been talking about...
You will go in around.
No.
The issue is, the constitution says they should be subordinate to civilian role.
Yes, and they are subordinate to civilian role.
The civilian is someone, your friend, and he says, I will not come, and he didn't come.
Yes, and you, the member of parliament, what did you do about it? Because you have the power.
We apologized.
Ah, you see? Yeah. So you actually exercised your mandate in the constitution by apologizing.
Really?
Which is, that's what I don't know what they were apologizing to, but they exercised their mandate because the constitution gave them. And that takes me to what I think Sarah was talking about. You know, when we sit here and say the quality of members of parliament is wanting, present yourself. You know, you see, the people choose the people who present themselves to them. So you cannot tell the people that they should come look for this quality that we talk about, which is outside parliament, when it is not presenting itself. You know? So I think what we can sit here in our elitist way and say, parliament has failed us, parliament has failed us.
Is a bad man.
No, wait.
You see,
no, let me finish.
At the beginning of this country, for which you are celebrating 63 years, I spoke to Abu Mayanja.
Let me finish.
Abu Mayanja told me he even went to India to persuade Bidandisari to return. At that time, you had a group of elite like yourself persuading others to come and run a country. You are now blaming everybody. That anyone who can, as long as they present.
Honorable Semuju, please allow the Attorney General to complete his submission.
You know, Honorable Semuju, anyway, let me get back to my point. So the issue of leadership is again us, the people. The people must choose from the people that are made available to them. So if the people are there, that you say, I am qualified, the people in parliament are not qualified, present yourself and make yourself available for the people to choose. Okay. But we cannot say that we don't have good leadership, but we are not participating in it. That is a contradiction. Let us make ourselves available. But also, Dr. Birete, when you come and give the public half-complete answers that when they interdicted someone, the president wrote and said, rethink. But you don't tell them what the law is. Are you saying the president broke the law?
Yes.
No, because Article 172 of the Constitution says that the person who is appointed by the president is disciplined by the president.
A register of titles
is
appointed by the president.
That is the law. Any person, maybe you have the Constitution. I saw.
I have it.
So you read Article 172 1B. It is there. So let us not
that
read.
someone before a court
Let us not read.
can,
I
can
will
be returned in
respond.
office.
Let, no,
Please allow him
let,
to
us,
finish.
let us not read the law
I will
as we,
respond.
as we want it to be. Let us tell the people, this is the law. The law has been followed. But maybe we need to rethink what this law is saying.
Okay.
That is how leadership works. So if you cannot say that this law is the members of parliament, the army officers just vote to add numbers to NRM. But what is the law? Does the law allow them to vote that way? Actually, I'll give you a story of one of your colleague MPs. One time was sleeping in parliament. When he woke up to vote, he woke up and started voting yes. So they asked him, why are you voting yes? He said, I don't think all those many people in parliament could be wrong. So it is that you're saying that if we want to talk about constitutionalism, we need to start discussing these things maturely.
Okay.
You know, maturely, and say, I think this clause needs to be revisited, and that's where Honorable Ogalo came in and said, or removed. That's where Honorable Ogalo came in and said that this constitutionalism that you're saying, why are you doing this? What is the reason that is driving you to do this?
Life presidency.
Even if the people of Uganda want life presidency, they are at liberty to do that.
And I'm going to ask that I read some feedback.
But I want to quickly, please, first respond to the Attorney General, because this is the principal legal advisor of government. So first of all is the issue of the Register of Titles, who, by the way, was investigated.
Commissioner Land Registration, let's be clear.
Who was investigated over 25 crimes, suspected crimes.
Or the registrar?
The one he has mentioned, called the,
Commissioner Land
Yeah,
Registration.
I have his name somewhere. Yes, over 25 crimes of fraud in the Land Commission, Minister of Lands. Then he is interdicted by the IG. I wish I had come with some of the paper evidence from the anti-corruption court. He is interdicted by the IG. There were several exchanges that I will not refer to. Then finally charged in court. He takes plea in a criminal case. Standing orders are clear. Yes, here the law says the person, the Public Service Commission, the Education Service Commission, they may appoint persons on behalf of the president. To argue that it's only the president to discipline people. Are you saying that the IG, the Inspectorate of Government, the DPP, cannot charge people who are heads of department in public service and above?
No, you see,
the president to discipline them, that they cannot face criminal proceedings?
Interdiction is not a punishment. And by the way, for your information, there is no provision in our public service standing orders which says that a person who is interdicted must leave office, rather who is charged must leave office. Because then that is against the Constitution, because the presumption of innocence, even if a person is charged, he is presumed innocent until found guilty.
Now you can see the problems
let me read some feedback.
Okay, I will respond to the other. Yeah. You can see the challenges of constitutionalism.
Let me read some feedback so that
but if you are not presumed innocent, what would have happened?
No, you step aside. You will come back to your
Doctor and Eji,
it is very clear.
Let me come back to you. He says, I'm not happy with the Ugandan leadership today, and I wish Idi Amin was still alive. I'm sure this nonsense wouldn't be there. Okay. Dr. Sarah, let's come back here. Good evening. This is Marvin from Mulago. I'm sorry to say there is no existing constitution running our country because money is the governing factor in this country, in our lovely land. Clearly, it's shown in the activities within the country and the public service. And let's not pretend as senior citizens that our country is looking good. It is terrible, okay? This is Abraham from Muyenga. He says, why can't Honorable Samuju resign since there is no constitutionalism? If there is pure dictatorship, why is he continuing to earn a huge salary as an MP in a dictatorship? Honorable Samuju should stop lamenting and let him tell us how the bills, okay, Someone else says the constitution was good only until amendments came in, and these amendments favor personal interests and moving forward. Timothy, thank you for the show. My name is Herbert Oluka, watching from Kampala. The problem with what the Attorney General is saying is that the movement is trending and the Ugandan constitution is like the table in the living room. You cannot shift it, you want to pass it. And whatever time you want to move, there is no removal of anything that is guarded. The constitution will remain as it is to the benefit of some people. Tomorrow they will change it. Today it will say that the president is free to hand over power to whoever he hands over power. Why? Please ask the Attorney General, why are they treating the constitution like a stool in a living room where you remove it as long as it blocks your passage? Okay. Finally, the constitutionalism has gone backwards. For example, the constitution, the state, the workers paid equal work done. The current government is doing us public injustice, paying scientists different from this social scientists, yet the same work is being done. I'm still puzzled by what the Attorney General is saying. This is Richard from Fort Portal. Honorable Attorney General, I think the question I want to leave with you as we take a break is on why the Constitution is applied selectively and why some of these amendments look like political amendments. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll start with the Attorney General here.
Super, wali yakapia musite wali yakapia. Wali yakapia. MTN kabo de super mustairo mpia. Then you kabo de smartphone nebi yakabibiona. Wali yakapia. MTN kabo de super mustairo mpia. Then you kabo de smartphone nebi yakabibiona.
Get the new Kabode Super smartphone and enjoy 16 GB free. Start with a deposit of only 45,000 Uganda shillings and pay the rest in daily installments of less than 1K. You can also make weekly and monthly installments. Together, our vibes are unstoppable. Terms and conditions apply.
MTN.
MTN is regulated by Uganda Communications Commission.
Welcome back from that quick commercial break here on Behind the Headlines. The conversation continues. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. I'm joined by Dr. Sarah Birete. I'm joined by Honorable Dan Wandera Ogalo and Honorable Nganda Semuju Ibrahim and the Attorney General himself, Honorable Chiriwa Chonka. We have missed the presence of the Honorable Minister in charge of Justice and Constitutionalism. The Honorable Norbert Mao is missing here, but the conversation still continues here, and let's get it started because even off air the conversation continued. Honorable AG, there are concerns, and let me start from an angle where you ended. Why do Ugandans seem powerless when it comes to their governance in terms of this constitution? Because it seems like they only have a mandate every 5 years. They cannot. You talked about accountability.
Yeah.
How can they hold these leaders accountable?
Timothy, that's exactly the point. Actually, in the constitution, under the movement system, there was a power to recall members of parliament by the electorate. this Constituent Assembly at the time found it necessary to remove that clause during multi-party politics. The power to recall members of parliament was specifically removed. It exists under multi-party politics, it doesn't exist. I hold the view that they had a reason why they did that. So the people are not powerless. The people, every 5 years, give you a mandate and say, you go and do this. If you don't deliver on what they want you to do, they remove you after 5 years. That's the Constitution. But also, that is the mandate that the people have given you. But there is a provision in the Constitution about referenda. The referenda can be called by the people anytime. Anytime. So it doesn't have to wait for 5 years. So they're not powerless. And maybe just to say, maybe we need to do a little bit more civic education on the powers of the people and what they have in the Constitution. And by the way, to correct the misrepresentation here, we have actually translated this Constitution into 8 languages. And even when you check on the internet now, it is there. Maybe what we need to do is to do more to get it to the people. And that we can...
Where are the copies?
Pardon?
Where are the copies of translated constitutions?
They're online. We put everything online.
They are digital.
They're digital.
In a country where we have 27%.
You see, the hard copies are available in Law Reform Commission. They're available in the bookshop if you go there. Yes. No. And they're available online. Now, if you say this is the era we are dealing with. So if we make it available online and make it available in the bookshop, what more can we do? The issue here is, if we think that we're not doing enough on civic education, then I think that is where our friends in the civil society come in.
I think, Honorable AG, you're pointing the finger in the wrong direction. It should be you, because
no,
if we look at it this way, walk on the streets of this country.
I can speak for civil society. I will do.
You're going to walk anywhere today or tomorrow and find a Ugandan and ask them the way you're asking for a provision that an American can be arrested and he knows his rights. Do Ugandans know their rights? Where did we get it wrong?
Timothy, I think we need to be careful, because when you say, if I walk on the street and ask the Ugandan for a provision in the Constitution.
If he's, like Honorable Somunju was talking about, someone arrested, what the Constitution states on how you get arrested, what should be done when you're arrested, do they have that understanding? Where did they get powerless to the Constitution?
You see, I can't answer that question because I really don't know. We need to check on that. It is the people who can tell us whether they know or they don't know. I can't answer that. But as far as I'm concerned, the information is available. The information is available. The duty of the state to train the people, civic education is provided for, and we should continue doing it. Yeah.
And you spoke about it being online. Where can someone find it?
Just search Itesot. Just put on, even now you can put on Runyankore version of Uganda Constitution. Okay. It's there.
But I want to ask the principal legal advisor to tell us if he has advised this government against abduction, detaining people in the basement, shaving their beard and beating them, if that doesn't bother him.
Well, it's the same thing, like you say, the right to life. People die, so you say, have I advised the public against killing?
No, this is specific.
Yeah. So what I'm telling you is that I do not know of any abduction.
Yeah.
So if you're saying the abduction, if the government is under is taking you, that's an arrest.
I'm talking about abductions, not arrest.
What is abduction?
JAT, SFC.
You mean you can arrest you? When you arrest someone, is it an abduction?
Okay, you can pretend. Okay.
No, don't talk about abduction. If the government picks up someone, that is called an arrest.
So there is no procedure followed when you are arresting people. You just bring a drone and bound them and beat them.
No, beating them is not allowed, and we advise all the time that don't beat them. But government does not abduct people. Government arrests.
Government shouldn't, but this particular
Government does
abducts
not.
people,
Government does not
detains
abduct
them
people.
in the basement, shave off their beard, and then Moses Kainerugaba says, "I am beating them."
Honorable AG,
Head of your political
why
party.
is it that
Pirao.
there is perception that there is selective application of this constitution, but also that the constitution seems to be politically driven rather than legally driven?
The constitution is a social document, a political document, and a legal document. Because the things we've been discussing here about governance are political issues.
Yes.
So they're in the constitution. So the constitution is actually a political document. So if anyone, people should not shy away from thinking it is a political document. It is a political document because it deals with the politics of the country. It is a social document because it deals with education and health. It is a legal document because it addresses issues of legal nature. So we should not be shy about saying the Constitution is a political document. It is a political document.
Thank you very much. Honorable Samuju, you wanted to respond, Dr. Sarah, before I get to Honorable Samuju.
Yeah, two things. One is if we complain about bad quality, why don't we represent ourselves? First of all, it's not that everybody should be a politician. I'm sure everybody should follow their passion. If your passion is in serving people through politics, you serve them. If your passion is in serving through other capacities, you concentrate on that. But also, why is it that good people are shying away from politics? The politics are too dirty. Money and violence. There are so many good people there that would want to be in service of the people through political leadership. But do you have the bags of money, like we saw in Kororo, when Attorney General saw in Kororo? The bags of money, your own members were even complaining, including your Minister of National Guidance, about the vulgarization of your internal processes. You see the violence, like in Zimbabwe, where a young man was murdered. I don't know whether there is justice for that young man. So the politics are too dirty, and it's only maybe, you know, those either who can manage, or if you have the means also to play dirty, that have dominated the arena. So that's why we have poor quality, and I don't know whether that's something to celebrate, because I don't think it is progress. The question of civil society. The same government that when Attorney General advised to close funding for civil society, including the democratic governance facility. So the closure of funding for civil society closed about 75% of CSO work. I'm sure everybody has noted that there is no visible voter education going on. On top of that, us as a government blocking the work of civil society, now you have other external issues like closure of USAID. There is no voter education in this election, we are not on a general. But also, to underscore the fact that civil society plays a complementary role. So, should they complement nothing? Where is the role of government that is supposed to be complemented? Where is it? So that's the question that we should answer.
Honorable Samuju, you speak a lot about what the military has done, what the politics has done. We also remember what the preamble is, the instability and all these things. Has this constitution been weaponized to the benefit of just a few, and why?
Not weaponized, overthrown. This constitution has been overthrown.
Why do you say it has been overthrown?
You've seen the president. He will appear on TV. He will say, "You soldiers, don't even bark at people. When you are arresting them, introduce yourself. This is the procedure to follow." And then on the news, so and so has been abducted. You saw what happened in Kawempe in a by-election. If you read the laws on elections, you're not even supposed to have an armed person at a polling station. That's why we have police constables who are picked from society and trained. But in Kawempe, you had armored vehicles at polling stations. The military started that whole by-election by beating people. These days, they have even hired gangs. So you're being beaten by the gang, by SFC, by JAT. The Minister for Internal Affairs responsible for law and order said, for us, we don't have JAT. I am told JAT is part of the military now. So they took over that whole exercise. There was time the president wanted to fuse police into the military. I think from the beginning of his administration. And I am told Dr. Paul Kawanga Semoge, the late said, no, we can't let police act different. I spoke, I was helping Brigadier Sebagal, I don't know whether that is his rank now, to do his biography, autobiography. And he told me when they are fighting a rebellion in Rwenzori, that is under Obote 1, they went with police units. The military was not even supposed to arrest anyone, including people in a rebellion. He said the ones we are picking, we are handing over to police in our area. Today you have the military. Sometimes you don't know whether it is military running police stations or both. Every police station now has a military personnel. So our lives have been militarized. People are still being kidnapped and taken to Mbuya in the basements. The other day I asked Honorable both. The military had picked my neighbor. And I told him, please help me. I am told this person is under military detention. Reason? They were looking for someone, and that someone had called this person. So I asked General Tafiri one time, why do they continue doing those things? Because this person should help you to get the one that you want. So you don't get the one you want, then you pick one who has been telephoned. That's how my sister was picked one time. I had to call all the ministers to help me. Then they said, you go to crime intelligence. So really, even police itself now, that some of the directors are military people. The same way we have them in parliament. You have military ministers, you have military MPs, you have military policemen, you have military political leaders. I don't know why Pirao is not given iPod money. So really, everything is military, and he carefully chooses to join a political party run by a military man. This is where he is. That's where he has deployed his professionalism on how to run. For the first time, you have military people running a political party. And how can you stop them? They are the ministers, they are in the police, they are in the parliament, they are everywhere. Why wouldn't they run a political party? The same way they sit in the parliament. So that's where we are. Intelligent people can scatter around issues when you raise. We can pretend, but the worst thing, and I keep telling people in my constituents, where we are now, we're talking about 30 years, 63 years of independence. We are on our way to where Rwanda is. Because in Rwanda, there is no pretense. The opposition, people in government will choose who will oppose them and then help you to oppose them, even deploy you. So that's where we are now. So you've seen Honorable Mao is not here. He said now he has drawn a line between an alliance of those who are in power. Some opposition parties are part of the alliance, and then the ones, us who are supposed to be criminalized. Africa has been let down by its people. Some of them highly educated, and I can see the debate. Some people think they lead. Of course, my thinking is different. You cannot substitute them. We can only continue pleading with them or looking for those who will do things different. This Attorney General, with his knowledge, belongs to an illegal outfit, a political party run by military people, and he's an active member.
I'm a member of NRM. That's a political party.
You're a member of Pirao. say that you are not a member of Pilau.
But what is the legal status of Pilau? Because
he's a member.
You mean
no, I want to ask the Attorney General.
PLU, for me, as far as I'm concerned, is not a political party.
Yes, I'm coming. I'm coming.
Yeah. It's a civic organization.
Yes.
It's so a CSO.
CSO.
If it works like
let
a quack.
I have my question to the Attorney General. So, Attorney General, if you say PLU is an NGO,
it's not an
which
NGO.
I think it is.
It's not an NGO.
It is.
It's a political party.
So, if it's not a political party, I think it's a CSO, civil society organization.
Yeah, it's a yes, a civic organization.
Founded by a serving person in the government.
Yes.
Do you know that the laws governing associations, the charter association, NGO, prohibits somebody who is active in the government to be in the non-government sector?
No, this is not a non-government organization.
So
it's not an NGO.
What is
this is a civic society. You sit down with a group of people of like minds and say we want to advocate for this. What is wrong with that?
Have you read the laws governing charter organizations?
Oh yes, yes.
It prohibits.
No.
Sarah, let me give you an opportunity.
I am very clear about that.
Bwana Attorney General, this is what we talk about when we say
it's legal
a constitution and constitutionalism. We have Article 208, which forbids a military man in UPDF from being partisan or getting involved in these political things and so on. My example where I'm saying to now really show where there is a constitution and constitutionalism is for us to sit here and claim that this outfit, you know, it is not a political party.
It's not.
The man himself has said, I want to be president.
Yeah, but not now.
Wait. The man has said, I want to be president.
He has addressed rallies.
He has addressed rallies. Recently,
didn't see him in Masaka?
Recently, in your primaries of NRM, his political party came up and said, we have captured 60%.
He congratulated them.
And then he congratulated them.
Yeah.
No, by the way.
I want us to distinguish this because this is the center of the problem we have in Uganda. The constitution, but no constitutionalism. Because there is nothing wrong with General Muhoozi resigning from the army and going into politics and seeking to be president. Nothing wrong with that. But for us to sit here and pretend that, you know, what he's doing is just either civil society organization, that exactly shows us why we do not have constitutionalism in this country.
No, but Honorable Ogalo, for me, the thing that I am telling you is that I know it is not a political party. Yeah? That I know.
Yeah, you are saying so because you are saying a political party should be registered, should have this certificate and so on.
Yes.
Now you are being illegal.
But that is
correct.
That
you are correct. You are being illegal. That's what it's supposed to be. But there is this saying, if it works like a duck, quacks like a duck.
You see,
the thing is a duck.
No, but this one doesn't work like a political party.
We had as a country made progress, and we were making progress. When the President Museveni, RO 001, wanted to run for office, the first thing he did was to resign, was to retire from the military. He even said, now I want to be a civilian, I want a council. You remember all that story. Subsequently, all the other military officers, General Muntu, of course, Besigye was retired in a very controversial way. Kazora used to cover them as journalists. He went to Bombo, they are retired, and the military is wishing them well, where you have gone into the politics. We were making progress as a country. Until I think when Mr. Museveni said, now to hell with the constitution, to hell with the law. Now, military people will do politics. If you want, you can go and hang. and is validating what they are doing. You see, we don't have any other country attorney general.
No.
These things we are talking about, we are on a journey. And the president demonstrated that by himself, saying, if I am going to seek for this office, I must be a civilian, because we don't want military rule. And I have told you, even in Parliament, I was there as a journalist, they told J.J. Odong, Parliament will not pass you as appearing before the vetting committee. They said, until you have resigned. And he went and resigned. So J.J. Odong is no longer in the army. But the subsequent former CDF, he's not. J.J. Odong resigned.
I didn't know.
Before he took over his appointment as State Minister for Environment.
I didn't know
the first thing he did. That's a journey we are taking as a country. Along the way, even that has gone. Not only has it gone, I have told you what happened to Mukunde. By appearing on the radio, they said, this is spreading harmful propaganda. You're a military man, you stick to military issues. Now you have a military man running civilians. He's supposed to be subordinate to you, now you're subordinate to military. He organizes a rally, you go following. He's in Masaka.
Yeah, but you see,
I mean, we can pretend about this, but that's where we are.
Semuju, you see, unfortunately for you, you know, the problem is that when I'm having a conversation with Semuju, the moment it has anything to do with President Museveni and the family, like I told you, I just.
But
just because
I also don't agree. The president, his family is a big family. Have you heard me speak about his daughters who are bishops and others?
The president is the one who led by example.
Yes, that time. And
but now you are telling him that he's the one who broke the law.
Yes.
How?
I have told.
He led by example.
At that time.
And even now, he's not a military man.
Yeah, but
so he's in politics.
But his son, who is a military man, has a political party to which you belong.
Which political party? For me, I belong. Yes, I belong to PLU, but my political party is NRM.
As if there is a
and you're not allowed to have two. By the way, it's illegal.
As if they are different.
Please allow me come to Honorable Wandera.
You see, after the NRM primaries, the CDF congratulated Pirao, also congratulated NRM. And he said, for us, we are now ready to give you logistics.
Honorable Wandera, you hear, and you've said very profound words.
You want me to share the tweet?
Share it.
It's pretense. One of those things that you have just spoken about.
You can't say.
How do we, and Honorable Semuju said something, we are making progress. The president resigned, especially in areas of our governance as a country, also prescribing to the stability of the country in that area. He also spoke about General J.J. Odong. How do we move from this stagnation of constitutionalism and start to move forward? With all this mistrust we have, and the trust you had with you as CA delegates, how do we gain that and get back to constitutionalism?
I think we can build, and I'm glad Semuju has mentioned this, because sometimes people think he's very negative. But you have heard him say, we were making progress. So it is not as if everything is lost. If we were making progress and we veered off somewhere, we can still go back to where we were, and make progress. But it will take a lot of political will. It will take a lot of courage. It will take a lot of patriotism for us to go back to where we were. And that can be achieved, I think, when we have a national dialogue. When we have a national dialogue to review the last 30 years, see where we have made mistakes, where we have gone wrong. It is not an indictment on government to say, let's review.
Who leads this process? Because I want to also be categorical. There is a lot of mistrust
Yes.
from all aisles of both activists and players.
Yes.
Who leads that national dialogue you're talking about? Who leads this process that Ugandans and all political players can trust them?
I think we can look to Tunisia in 2013, 2014. It was like a situation going very, very bad. But civil society organizations took the lead. They involved the political parties. There was goodwill for those who had been in government, because the government had run into trouble and the president had taken off. There were those who had been in government, they were there, opposition and so on. And they conducted a very good convention, a national dialogue, and something very good came out of it, and they started forging forward. But if that dialogue is determined by people with political interest, would already have begun at a wrong, on a wrong basis. You go there, if you go into this national dialogue with the Kakuns and saying, no, now for us, what advantage do we take as a UPC or NRM in this scenario for us to gain? Then, of course, it won't work.
What's the fate of the Constitution with that national dialogue?
The Constitution states, while you are going through this system,
do we get a new one? Do we amend it? Do we review it? What exactly happens to it?
Now, thank you. The national dialogue will help us determine the way forward on how we deal with the issues. Because you see, this national dialogue will not be will even not be very much interested so much in the Constitution as is. But it will be, first of all, looking at the current problems, then try to resolve them in the context of where we went wrong. And where we went wrong, you'd have to look at the Constitution. The Constitution itself really has guided us. If you look in the preamble, it gives us the principles and values which will help us build a better Uganda.
Okay.
Those are unity, democracy, social progress, equality. There are 7 of them. Those principles are what would guide this national dialogue in coming on how we move forward with all these things.
Thank you. Dr. Sarah, he mentioned something like where we went wrong. Where did we go wrong, and how do we find our way back?
I had mentioned in my preamble on where we went wrong, but specifically the other elephant in the room is the fusion of the party with the state, the NRM party, or what we would call state capture in other words. When you look at the functioning of NRM party, it uses branches of government, even in their mobilization. The other day, I think yesterday, agents of political candidates were discussing how they are being blocked by RDCs, and the RDCs are just blocking opposition. You will not campaign in this district. Some of them were even captured on media. I will not allow opposition in my district. RDCs.
Deputy RDC of Mitiana.
Yes. So, and I don't know whether the Attorney General gets to advise other people, because sometimes he's also busy doing party work. The other day he was receiving people who crossed from NU. He's also part of that fusion. Because when you look at the functions of Attorney General in Articles 119, especially 1194, they are key for functions. He's supposed not to be fused so much in part activities. He's from Rango, he's receiving NUP, he's receiving what? Then you have RDCs crossing districts and saying, I will not allow opposition in my district. He doesn't have time to advise them, and so many other things. When Attorney General, I think you need to detach yourself sometimes.
So how do we find our way back, Dr. Sarah?
Yeah, so part of it is we must undo this state capture. The fusion of NRM and the state and state institutions. And that's how you have the CDF also saying, now Pirao you will support NRM. This time you will support the. These are public things. X is a public platform of record. So when you have a verified account of the CDF, and he's saying all of these things that contradict and abrogate the Constitution, and there's nobody to advise him.
Who can midwife this process?
The Constitution.
You're talking about the fusion of the state and the party.
Yes.
Who can midwife this to ensure that the Constitution survives, or that the child that is called the Constitution survives this midwife?
Okay, so let me conclude the worry. I know that the campaign is still peaceful. It's just week 1. We are going into week 2. Let me assure you that the last week of campaigns will be chaotic. You will have the army acting as the military wing of NRM. I don't know whether along the way, on losing the journey, the UPDF restored the settings of NRA. So we have NRA, NRM, we've lost the National Army. The character of the National Army is clearly defined in Article 208 of the Constitution. The functions of the Army are defined in Article 209. And Article 209, subsection 2 is very clear that the Army can only interact with citizens in situations of disaster and emergencies. But you have the Army taking over the day-to-day duties of police. And because they don't know how to do it, that's how they abduct people and even post about it on X. I have abducted Edumutwe, I have abducted, and the Attorney General does not advise them. So
no. He says it's not abduction, it is arrest.
But arrest is defined in Article 23. So which arrest are they doing? And does the Army have rockers to do arrests in Uganda?
Yes, it does.
How?
What do you mean? If you
What provision?
If you have the power to arrest.
What? Okay, you say
You
provision.
have the power to arrest the police. You
Uh-huh.
have the power to arrest.
How do you do
But
it?
the army doesn't have the power to arrest.
How is it done?
You do it, you identify yourself and arrest the person.
Do the people in drones identify themselves?
I don't know, you ask them.
Where
Do
do
those
you
who
live?
take people in basement and
No.
shame
Okay.
them
Let
identify
us
themselves?
not thing it.
So you will respond. Let me finish my submission.
But you see, don't involve us in half-truths.
No. We are not on a general. Let me submit. Note down what you want to respond to, then you will respond. That's how we do it here. So when you have such things happening,
But in Pirao,
we
they
have
do it
had a
different.
continuous situation of enforced disappearances in this country. If you go under Article 8 of the Rome Statute, continuous disappearances of supporters of opposition, now 5 years down the road, they qualify as crimes against humanity. And then we are saying we have constitutionalism. Since 2020, supporters of opposition have been missing, abducted. You cannot call that arrest. A drone has picked it. The other day it was, I think, Edumutwe's brother, then Bobby Giant. The way these people are manhandled and taken, as if the Constitution doesn't exist. So what we need, the Interreligious Council of Uganda has been proposing dialogue. I think it's a neutral platform because we are a highly religious country. You find that 90% of Ugandans subscribe to these religious groups. They have been proposing dialogue. I think they are the best placed entity to preside over such a dialogue.
Before I come to the AG, Honorable Somuju, you said we were making progress. How do we leapfrog to get back to constitutionalism?
You see, we can learn from other countries. The whole idea of establishing IPOD here was because we wanted to learn from the Ghanaian experience. Because J. Rawlings was as rough as any other African military dictator, sometimes loading people in helicopters and throwing them in the ocean. But they had a cutoff, went into meetings, restored term limits. After 8 years, he left, others have followed. Since then, Ghana has been changing leaders. Even in Kenya, with its shortcomings, at least you are sure a certain leader will go after some time. So there's nothing that we are going to reinvent. You only ask one time where the President Museveni on a talk show, and I pleaded with him, he needs to play a role. If he wants to leave Uganda in one piece, he will need to play a role. Unfortunately, the people who work with him, people who have gone to school, are just cheerleading. They should be the one pleading with him every day to leave this country in one piece. He still can play a role. Why? He's the one who removed the term limit. He's the one who removed the age limit, brought military to take over police. When people are powerful and they see guns all over, they begin thinking that that is power. And that's how, so to be direct as I answer, the most smooth way is by people who are in government to establish and work as she has suggested, Dr. Virete. If they don't do that, there is a wrong route. What the other African countries have gone through in Libya, in Sudan, in Congo, and everywhere. But that will be very destructive. Possibly. It will be costly, we will lose life, we will lose. I was in Khartoum, there was a Kenyan senator, very old. He told us at the time of independence, only London was better than Khartoum. Now the whole of it is in tatters. Yeah. It is still possible, it isn't too late. Lately, people Uganda has educated like Chiwanuka Chiriowa, use the advantage that they have to plead with their masters, even if there is no dialogue, but for them to begin walking back. It is very possible. I have told you, if the things Museveni said in 1996 elections or before, as the Honorable Wandera Ogalo said, by now maybe we would be in another third generation of leadership. It is still possible.
Okay.
But if they take the path of continuing with military dictatorship, a father hands over to a son like it happened in Togo, that power can evaporate. It has in other countries, in other jurisdictions. So as we mark the 63 and 30 years of the Constitution, we can restore because the very essence of this particular Constitution, the preamble we started with, was to ensure peaceful and orderly transfer of power. That can still happen.
Okay. Allow me get to the Honorable Attorney General, and please allow me put you on the spot. The history of this country, a majority of the population was not there. They came after, they have had stories. The Constitution is the vanguard to protect this country against going back to its past or getting worse. How do you want to be remembered in the making or in the sustaining of this Constitution?
No, you see, for me, the beauty about it is that my thing is legal. So me, I give advice, legal advice. That's my job. So except if someone wants to challenge me on the interpretation that I have given, that is my job. So if you tell me that what is this provision saying, that is what I do. Now, when we start talking about what it should be, I am not at liberty to say what it should be, what the provision should be.
You are at liberty, you are in Kalangala.
No, but you see, the thing is that one in Kalangala, by the way, to be clear, by the way, let's be very clear, because you have this idea of Attorney General not being in a party or something. No, that's not correct. The Attorney General is a minister. You know, is a minister in government.
Honorable Attorney General.
So what I'm saying is that
our history, which really was not good, with change of government, not peaceful, biggest majority doesn't know it. It has really the vanguard of the country.
Even the 40 years of stability, with all the issues that we have had, with all the issues Semoji is talking about, is something to celebrate. The fact that this Constitution has been able to hold us together for these 40 years. Now,
can it hold us the next 40?
Now, that's the question we need to ask ourselves. What is it that we need to do to carry us the next 40? Because it has carried us for 30 years. And we are here. We're a country that is growing, yes, albeit with challenges, but we are growing. So the question is, can it carry us for the next 30 years? What do we need to do to help it carry us to the next 30 years. So for me, I don't think that this doom every day we are dying. Uganda is about to no. If something has not gone wrong, we ask ourselves, what is it that we have not done right, and how do we correct it? But has the Constitution addressed it? If the Constitution has addressed it, why isn't it working? That's what we need to be addressing.
Okay.
And that's the conversation we should be having. But as we do that, we also need to start with having honest conversation. Honest conversation. Because you will not have a conversation with someone who say, you doing this. No, it can't work that way. You have to have an honest conversation. If it is criticism, it needs to be honest, genuine criticism, and say, no, this is what is going wrong because of ABCD. So for me, that is what I see where we lose track. Every time there's a conversation about anything, it is wrong, right. I am the one who is right, I'm the one who is wrong. And it can't work, you see, because you say all these people are doing the wrong thing. There was money in Nambole. We see money in all these other political parties. We see it. So we are not being honest with each other. We're not being honest with each other, and that's where the problem is.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me read just 2 messages. Good evening. Thank you, Timothy, for the show. About arrests in Uganda, the Attorney General and the government arrests and abduction, but are not abductions. Who in government is authorized to arrest? How should arrests be performed? I think that is already something they explained. How should arrests be performed? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Timothy, for the show tonight. The show is the first time I have seen Honorable Chiriwa Chionka completely deflated. It looks bad on him. This is Peter from Uganda. Peter. I beg Billy Luswata from Masaka, thank you for the show. Amending the Constitution is within the law, but using SFC and CMI and other security agencies to storm Parliament and brutalize legislators is saddening, akin to military dictatorship. Honorable Semuju is right. It's a pity that these things have happened, and also the abductions of the people from Kenya that were abducted here, but also the continuous incarceration of Dr. Besije and Obed Kamlegia. I beg to spare what is happening in the studio. Okay. Gentlemen and lady, thank you very much for gracing us and having a discussion here. Hopefully, Honorable Attorney General, you can grace us again to be able to have such patterned conversations. But we'll end with this quote. The Constitution is for the people. The people are not for the Constitution. Good morning.
Big thing about the MTN Super. Wali yakapia musite wali yakapia.